Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Money, Sex, and God, the place where we talk about all things taboo and naughty and just underneath the closet in an effort for you to find more freedom in your sex life and your personal life. I bring on some experts in the field of sexuality and business, and I do this for a purpose, to really give you a Monday night anthem, so you will, of how freely you can live your life and how much deeper you can come back home to you. So if you're watching live, let us know that you're watching live. And if you're on the replay, either here or somewhere else where this is going to be dropped, just hashtag replay and let us know so that we can stay connected with you. And those of you that are live, I'm just going to give a little like teasy tease, early bird, like hurry your ass up, because tomorrow we are starting the Pleasure Academy. We're not starting it. That's the last day of our enrollment, excuse me. So if you are thinking about it, you better jump in like right now, like not later, like right now, so that you can come and join us in the Pleasure Academy. And great. Okay, amazing. Just checking my tech. Looks awesome. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this guest. I'm going to tease you a little bit with him before I bring him on. I met this particular human a little over, I don't know, a year or 2 years. I'm terrible at timelines. And one of the things that really dropped in with me, and I think we both had a similar feeling, was when I met him, I was like, this human gets the realm of energetic sex. This human understands polarity. This human has this ability, this mastery in his body already, and it's something that I can trust. So few months later, we did an event together in New York City, and it was incredible, really incredible. I miss it. I wish we could go do another one. COVID, be over. And so we're actually bringing this conversation to you to dive deeper into this realm of energetic sex mastery, to give you some little hints about it, and then to share more about this person's life and what he did to master this. I know there's many of you watching that are like, I want that. I want to know sex mastery. Get me in there. Just comment if that's you so that we can know. So I want to introduce our guest for tonight. Give him like, type in the chat, like, woo, get excited. Get excited. I'm not going to do it until I see y'all like, woo, I see you. I see you. Okay, amazing. So Destin Gerek, thank you so much for coming on Money, Sex, and God. I'm like, I love being able to chat with you. Like, you're one of my deepest friends, dearest friends, and just epic colleague in this work. So I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you're here and that we get to play. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to connect with you publicly or privately. The conversations that we get to have, just the way our energies play with one another. And yeah, as you're indicating, there are places I can go in connection with you and conversation with you that I can't go with most people. Most people just don't have a reference point for. And I'm hoping that, well, one, you've been priming your audience with these conversations for quite some time.
They're ready.
And you and I being able to have this high level conversation that will be able to bring other people along for that ride.
Yeah, that's my hope. And so a little bit about the people, like they're ready, right? The people that are watching, like if you're listening, if you're watching, we know that you're ready for the level of mastery that we're bringing you. So this isn't going to be one of those cheesy, cute conversations. We're going to go deep, right? We're going to go deep here into the work. Awesome. All right, let me get in this. So just from checking, there was a tech thing. Okay, beautiful. Now I can be fully present with you. So this all started because I had you read over a portion of my book, and you also wrote a pretty fucking epic book, which I love. And there it is. For the podcast listeners, can you just tell the name of the book and what's it about?
The book is titled The Evolved Masculine, Be the Man the World Needs and the One She Craves. It was definitely a blood, sweat, and tears type of book. It took me years to put together, unlike your pleasure-centered creative model. And it's really rooted in this lifelong journey, both personal and professional, that I've been on that's been rooted in my own pain and struggles around understanding what this thing is that we call masculinity and how to form
Mm.
a healthy, more evolved relationship with it, how to
Mm.
completely reprogram the sense of your sexuality, because quite obviously the program that we've received is pretty fucked.
Yeah.
And to deepen my understanding of women and the feminine as a force in this universe, externally as well as the feminine within, to be able to form healthier, more vibrant, sexier relationships.
Hot.
Yeah, it's incredibly hot,
Yeah.
and it's incredible. It's been I've lived a very outside the box life and journey in exploring these questions, as I went a very embodied path, not just like studying books, that also, but also through a constant life as laboratory experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think, you know, you and I can relate in this piece of like really understanding sexuality on an embodied, like full body level of what's happening. Cause you could read all the books. And I think there's brilliant books out there. I just sent you one. I don't know if you got it yet.
I received it yesterday. Thank
Yay. So sometimes, right? Sometimes we do read the books as reminders, but until it's like deep inside of the nervous system and in the skin, how well are you really playing with energy? And what I heard you speak about in your book, which we'll kind of be diving in, I love to talk about polarity with you because I think sometimes we kind of get argumentative about it, right? And so me, like I've denounced all of the masculine, feminine. I've like completely like, rah, it's over. And there is something very tangible and real about polarity.
Well, I think that the fun place that we can go in this conversation is the fact that you and I both have dived quite deeply into these aspects of polarity and energetic play, and we both have very atypical perspectives on it.
Yeah.
There is well, most people aren't talking about period, but there is a sizable conversation around polarity and masculine feminine dynamics that largely holds general consensuses that I think that you and I are both kind of outside of that consensus.
Yeah. 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 That's true. There is a level of us because I think we've done so much of walking the path and really like diving head. I mean, tell them a little bit about it's in your book, but how you did it. I did it by pro-doming and becoming a sex worker. And I was
really not that different.
I was literally, you just weren't getting paid for it. Right?
Yeah, not in the same way, and certainly not as much. There are certainly differences being in a male body versus being in a female body and walking this type of a path. And I think that really is at the root of a lot of our differences in this experience.
Yeah.
But quick summation of the journey. Grew up in a volatile household with a lot of toxicity, and then my high school sweetheart was raped, and I ended up being the first person she told. I was 16. I was not equipped to handle it. We ended up being together for the next 3 years. Had clearly a massive impact on her, but it also had a massive impact on me. And there was a point where I made a declaration, probably around 18 years old, that I was going to do everything I could with my life to create a world where men just wouldn't dream of committing such atrocities.
Yes. Yeah.
So that set me off on this crazy journey that I've been on, but I also unconsciously took on this message that masculinity, especially men's sexuality, are dangerous and not to be trusted. As a boy on the cusp of manhood, what's the impact? I cut myself off from these parts of myself and retreated more into my more feminine parts of myself because it seemed safer. And so continue for the next 10 years. A lot of gifts in that. I have an incredible connection to the feminine, that, as well as an incredible understanding of the feminine that most men don't ever get to touch, that has informed so much of my perspective. And by like my late 20s, I recognized something was horribly out of balance inside of me. And life was not working. Could barely keep a roof over my head, and my relationship was a wreck. And I came to recognize, I think there's something around my relationship to myself as a man, and my masculinity that's tied up in this. And I went on this deep dive in 2007, particularly into exploring what does masculinity mean to me, and how do I form a healthy relationship to it? But I was also living in San Francisco in deep in Burning Man culture. And so where playing with masks and costumes and personas was celebrated. So I created a larger than life character, persona, alter ego, archetype that I dubbed, get ready, the Erotic Rockstar. And in my creation of this larger than life character, I put on him all these things I didn't think of myself as. And he, well, whatever those words evoke in you, chances are it was all that and so much more. I pushed the edges of what I was constantly asking myself the question, how do I make this moment more erotic, more sexy? How do I make this moment more rock star? How do I like turn it up to 11? How do I be playing more full out, be more fully expressed? Our life is determined by the quality of the questions that we ask. Those are the questions I was asking myself constantly. So it kept getting sexier and sexier, and it kept getting more and more rock star. With the light and the dark of it, let me say.
Yeah. I mean, you're speaking to so much that we I mean, I think, and like, let me know what you think about this, but I think that in general, we all have an erotic rock star, no matter masculine, feminine, whatever, right? That we are not, and a society, that erotic rock star has been shamed, beaten down, shut off, right? The woman or feminine that's fully expressed in their eroticism is the slut, the scarlet lettered, right, burned at the stake witch. And then, right, and then we have the masculine version. And so,
well, my erotic rockstar very much wasn't the masculine version. I mean, my erotic rockstar, I mean, this is one of the places where I really diverged from that these conversations that were rooted in David Data's work and such, is that my erotic rockstar and the gift that I was bringing forth to the world was not rooted just in my masculine essence. It wasn't rooted in me being in my full masculine sexual power. It was this unique blend of my masculine and feminine, and the way in which I was able to move between them, like moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. And that's how I played with polarity with people, mostly women, but not entirely. Was, I mean, I would play with everyone because it was my favorite game. My favorite game was just walking through life and being like, what does your sexuality taste like? Let me spark it. Like young, old, hot, not, male, female, trans, intersex, whatever your sexual orientation or identity, I got off on turning you on.
Yeah. So I see. So this is where you are a sex worker, right? This is where you became
100%.
Because this is the job of the tantrika or the sex worker, is like, I don't care who you are. Some of the hottest sex I had was with like 80, 70-year-old humans, right? Like who the fuck would have thought, right?
And I do want to restate though that while yes, I did have a lot of sex with a lot of different people, I turned on 100-fold as many people, you know what I mean? And so much of it for me wasn't about sex, wasn't about fucking. Like, sure, there were times where that's exactly what I wanted, but sometimes I wanted to feel it. I wanted to turn you on. And part of it was, part of it was definitely a discovery of my own power and a flexing of that power. It was like seeing what I was capable of. And I do speak of this all in past tense because I'm 42 now, and much of what I'm speaking of was 12 years ago, you know, and I mean, that journey, the Erotic Rockstar chapter was really 2007 to 2015.
That's when I was doing mine on opposite sides of the world. Look at us go.
2014, yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm almost as far out of that chapter as I was in it. And it's a chapter of my life that I'm going to be remembering for the rest of my life. So forming. And again, like it was just learning how to play with energy. And every person that I interacted with, I could find their feminine energies, I could find their masculine energies. And instead of solely like the messaging, like men tap into your masculine energy to polarize her into her feminine and create that attraction, I could do that. But I could also play with my feminine to play with her masculine. And it was more like honestly, the way that's spoken about, that people, I'm going to be a little egotistical here for a moment. The way that it's spoken about, that many people like strive so much to understand, to build that skill, I honestly think is remedial. Like,
I agree.
no. A mastery level, you can go anywhere. You can play with anything. You can move across these energies. Who is this in front of you? And because this person that you're attracted to and not attracted, whatever, they're carrying both masculine and feminine energies, no matter who they are, no matter how blended they are, no matter how masculine she is, no matter how uber feminine she is, she still has her masculine parts. And it was more like being a masterful pickpocket, or not pickpocket, like a lock, where like figuring out the right
the
key.
Openings.
The right openings, and like playing with those little tumbles inside the lock until click, 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 click. Yes. Turn.
Right. And I think so many people, so there's one thing that just I've been wanting to just land, that just speaks to kind of what you did in your journey that I think my community will really honor, was that you reclaimed your own understanding of gender and fluidity of energy within your body. So it wasn't, let me go read a textbook and then figure out what I'm supposed to do, or let me go. And we talk a lot about this, like the importance of actually coming home into your own system and figuring out how you want to play it, and recognizing, and I think this is what you're getting at here, recognizing that the mastery is actually being able to play kind of all of it, right? All of it. Because when you can show up in front of the person in front of you, and you could just go, oh my God, I'm going to fucking turn you on, or I'm going to love you right there, no matter what you're doing. You can create that connection again. And to me, that's sex mastery. That's polarity of like, no matter what's going on with the human in front of me, I'm going to find a way, right, to bring them back to themselves. So if I'm standing in front of a super, in your terms, masculine, right, in our terms, kind of like rugged, strong, that kind of like stoic human, right? I'm not going to go and try to like bounce against him or out masculine, right? I'm going to find the polarity of it, and not through my words and thoughts, but through my energetics, right?
Yeah, I think the way that I would often play with that, because you and I are great reciprocals on this, because you have definite masculine parts of yourself that are very driven, very like penetrative, and then you also have an incredible femininity about you that is extremely pleasure focused, plays so much with aesthetic, is very much into flow, has a magnetic drawing in quality, and it is that combination, the ease with which you play with all those parts of yourself, that is your beauty and is your unique magic that you bring forward. Right. And likewise with myself, like, I mean, if you're watching this, you see I'm moving my hands all over the place. I'm bubbly. How
are you teaching masculine, Destin? Why aren't you standing still?
I'm wearing this, I don't know, magician's garment that I got in Tokyo. Can
I just tell them, when you were visiting and you stayed with, so Destin stayed with me for like a few months back, and it was so funny to see every time he'd walk out of this room, like the clothes that he was wearing and the like ornate intricacies. Are these shoes okay? And I was like, oh my God, I love that this is who's teaching masculinity, because it's so key of like, it's about owning you and understanding you, right? Is that what you're gonna get to?
And at the same time, though, I mean, like, it's not that I was coming out in pearls and a dress. Not that there's anything wrong in doing so, if that is your expression that you feel like playing with. My presentation definitely had a masculine flair, but with flair.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I have all of those elements and this attention to the aesthetic, etc. And then I'm also penetrative. I'm clear. There's this place that I'm going. I'm extremely purpose driven. I'm a fucking force. I've learned to cultivate these qualities on both ends that I have found really valuable, and that I have wanted to deepen into my body. When I went on that journey starting in 2007, to explore my masculinity, that was a key piece for me. It was just like, I didn't want to demonize my feminine in the process.
Yeah.
And that did seem like the messaging all around me, especially like for in men's work and all this stuff. If you're cultivating your masculine, it's just like, forget about your feminine.
Right.
Forget about it.
Right.
This is the time to like focus on your masculinity. And I'm like, my feminine had brought such gifts into my life. And not only that, but I felt that she still had so much more to offer me. And so I continue to explore and discover so much. And especially when you're talking about the realms of the erotic and the sexual, like, God, I mean, learning to play with flow was so, I mean, so much that was rooted in my feminine. And then at the same time, it's like, I'd learned to be able to match where she was at. Let's say she was in her guardedness, which often has a certain masculine energy flavor to it. I could meet that with my softness. I could meet that with a more feminine part of me that would allow her to relax, be in a place that's comfortable for her, and then sort of like piece by piece start to move until I'm just leading the energetic journey.
Yeah. I keep seeing you moving your hands, and I'm curious because this is the way. So I've been trying to explain polarity to people, and like I've watched so many couples fucking or about to fuck, right? Because it's the work I'm doing, and I'm sitting there going, why don't they see what's going on here? And why don't they know to penetrate in that moment? I don't care what their gender is, right? Or why don't they know that to hold back in that moment? Or why don't they know to like, what's going on? What are we missing?
Because here's my quick answer.
Tell me,
not that you were asking me.
I actually have no idea. I'm like I'm stuck around it. Yeah.
You and I are both embodied and highly kinesthetic. Most of our society today is mentally driven. And so sex ends up being treated the same way. They're trying to figure out what to do next. But the place that we're talking about, you're not figuring anything out. You're feeling it out.
Yes. I know they're going, well, how do we feel it? How? What do we, right? Because their brain is already trying to figure it out. I'm like thinking of all the people I've worked with. And I think one of the biggest things on my end, what I've seen, and let me know if this is what you've seen too, is clearing out anything that's stopping them from just being. Like just being here. I don't care if it's feminine, masculine, what's happening, but like if there's mind chatter going on and we're not presencing it, I think so this is one of the things that I notice is that I think on a very visceral level, everyone can see and feel the things that we do. I think everyone can. They just haven't been trained to trust that energy.
I think that's very well said.
Yeah.
That actually, I think it's more the opposite. I think that they've been trained to not trust that energy. Right. I think that innately we would trust it. We learn early on not to trust it.
Yeah, because I think that's where our power is.
Yeah. Right? And I'm sorry, for those who are watching, I just want to explain, my eyes keep going back and forth. I'm having a tech issue and my webcam is here and her, Genevieve's picture is here. So okay, just
we love it.
If I'm distracting you, that's what's going on.
You're distracting yourself, right? And so clearest example, right, of how you just presenced what was happening. Well right? Said. Clearest example. So this is where I see this a lot in sex. You totally did. I go, well done. Well done. Right. But I see this a lot with sex is like, they're thinking things and they're like, don't think that, don't think that, don't think that. Right. Or she's thinking about the dirty laundry. Don't think that, don't think that, don't think that. And what would it be like to be like, fuck, there's a sock on the fucking floor. I can't relax because there's a sock on the floor. And then to be with that space. Right. And so I was getting it with the hands, just kind of following the hands thing is, to me, I see energy when I can, because I can visually see it. I've been able to visually see it since I was a young girl. And I see it as circles. It's like these concentric circles, right? And there's often colors and shades and whatever. And one of the things that I notice is that in sexuality and turn on is just completing the circle. You're just literally, there's one person and they're circling. How can you match the circle and complete it? So you're pulling the energy or pushing it based on what's happening, right?
I retract what I said earlier then. I made an assumption about your experience of energy based on mine. Yeah, I don't see it. I feel it.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying conceptually, but I don't see that.
Yeah.
It is very felt sense. It's like I feel a magnetic pull. I feel an invitation, or I create an invitation. There is it as I learn to trust that more and more. There is a deep reading of the moment. Yes. I created a training around this called Erotic Superpowers, ESP, where you learn to read her body so well it's as if you read her mind. Mm-hmm. And yes, there's clearly certain elements that I just have a gift for, you could say, but I do believe that we can all learn to pay attention to things that we're not paying attention to.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to tell a little story because so recently at Paths of Passion, which was the big event that we did over the weekend with Jaya, I was normally I do energetic sex demos on myself all the time. Like that's my thing, is like self-pleasure, show people how to do that on myself. And Jaya and Ian reached out and they were like, can you and Sabrina do a demo on stage? Right. And I went, I'm like checking to make sure, babe, is it okay if I tell her story? But I'm sure it is. So we're good. Generally, Sabrina gives me consent to share whatever. So I'm like, I'm feeling into that, and I'm nervous because I'm like, we've never actually done this polarity thing. We've never actually played here. And so the two of us sat down. It's about 2.5 weeks before the event, and I was like, can I teach this to my partner without? I think I reached out to you. I was like, Destin, how do I teach this? Right? Is there anything out there? Can I teach this without using words, right? But just teach the felt sense. Can I do that? And what we learned was that it was almost as if you're flipping a switch in Sabrina's brain. That's what we had to do, is literally like you're seeing and feeling everything slightly differently. And to trust that piece and to follow that piece, they were able to, we were having tons of orgasms on stage when it actually happened. So I'm starting to get this understanding. It's been really fun to see how there's very little words that we can put in to teach it. And it's almost entirely practice, embodied, and transmission based, unless you have ideas of like steps and tips.
There's something that a colleague of ours, I suppose, Reed Mahalko, I saw him teach probably a decade ago, that I always thought was really great. For those who are listening, like, I don't get it. Like, it's fascinating and sex, so like, I want to know, but I don't get it. Have you ever like licked your finger, taken your wine glass, and like rubbed around the edge and kind of like listened in to find that spot where then it starts to sing? There's some place in you that you go as you're bringing your finger around to kind of feel and find that sound. Mm-hmm. That's the place.
Yeah. And to be clear for all of the people, I'm not going to say this. I was about to like stereotype a whole group of people, and I won't do that. So I'm just claiming that was happening. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. But for the people that feel like they can't have that attunement, that energetic mastery when things are fast or strong or like penetrative or pulsing. I see this in all bodies, right? I think for especially people that have lived in feminine bodies, to learn that is going to fucking blow your mind, because you can use it when you need it and then release it when you don't, right? But anyway, side note, to be able to also be attuned when you're quick and fast and moving through. I'm thinking of the demo that we did. What was it? I'm losing it. Wait, Wild Vessel. Right? And it was fast. We had 3 minutes to show 5 different types of relating with bodies.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a moment that we were out of a tune.
No.
Right? It wasn't a moment, because we both were just able to play in that dance.
And piece. we were moving so quickly from one flavor into another, into another, into another. Yeah. It was wonderful to play as like mastery in action. Um, the I what I want to point to with that, I don't know if this is what you're speaking to or not, is that especially if you're in an early learning phase around this, yeah, more often than not, slower is easier slow, and even stillness is easier to feel and find this.
Mhm.
As you develop greater mastery, you can learn to go anywhere. You can feel at any speed, at any intensity, but it's not a race. You can find that, you know what, I just really love the super slow and soft type of things, and the places we go energetically there. I freaking love it. Maybe I want to spend years just exploring that, then spend years exploring that.
Right. It's just an invitation, right? If people, and the invitation specifically is because I think there's this understanding and this kind of misconception that energetic sex always needs to be like soft, slow, get right like this, right? There's a way to attune where you can still fuck the shit out of your partner, right? And like have like, you can still do that. I just needed to say it in space.
Yeah. I two things I want to say on that. One, again, I'll say that I've generally found that for most people, it's easier to learn. It's to find that connection in a slower, softer mode, and then to be able to expand from there. Second piece I want to say something that you probably appreciate as well. So 2011, I think it was, a 20-year-old blonde professional dominatrix found me online and decided that I was going to be her dom. And and I'm like, I have minimal experience in this realm, but like, I don't shy away from a challenge. And I got quite into it. And a big part of what I found was how it can be such an incredible synergy or place of overlap and connection between these tantric energetic realms and the BDSM kink realms. And that the way, instead I'm applying that same deep attunement, focus, presence, feeling into this other person to find where their edge is.
Totally.
To find where, okay, too little, they're bored. Too much, it's breaking them. So where is that resilient edge of resistance, that place that's just gently stretches?
Yeah, totally. I learned this being a pro dom. I remember the first time I was standing there and there was a man on his knees, naked, quivering. And I was like, cool, how am I going to get him to feel like he got his money worth? Like, I had no idea. And I started just...
If he was on his knees, naked, quivering, he probably was already feeling like he...
I mean, yeah, a lot of it's just the idealism of who I was, right? But I was like, I'm just going to breathe for like 15 minutes until I figure out what to do. And he was like, that was the best. No one's ever made me wait that long. And I'm like, cool, all right. Because when we don't know, this is another like tip. When you don't know what to do, don't think about it. Continue to feel until an impulse arises and then move with that piece, right?
Yeah. Again, I guess back to learning to trust.
Learning to trust, much of it.
Learning to trust, like, I don't know,
the body.
Especially, you know, again, I work primarily with men. For a lot of men, they're starting from a place of such disconnect from what they feel, period.
Yeah, and like how do we come back home to the body and use it to be the guidepost, right?
Well, I have a lot of work that's built around.
I do too.
Questions.
Like, just come and take all our shit. Yeah, beautiful. So I mean, a lot of this I think was really theoretical for people, but I hope that people did have ideas of possibility of where to go, and that it's beyond, right? Sex can bring you beyond, like, let me touch her here. Let me stroke his cock like this. Let me do the tantra breath work, right? Over and over again. And then connect down here. There's a place beyond it where there's flow and ease or turn on and excitement. And all of it is kind of one thing all at once, right? And that's what I wanted to point people to with this conversation. Yeah. Anything else you want to throw into the bucket of energetic yum? I know we could go for hours on this. I love talking about this with you.
Yeah, no, I would love to have a multi-hour conversation with you about this, to be honest. And then intermixed with doing.
Yeah, right. Come on, let me go.
I guess I'd like for you to know that, like with most things in life, it starts with making a decision that this is something that you'd like to explore, and then giving yourself a lot of permission to be a beginner.
Yeah, fuck it up.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a beginner. Yep. Anybody who has any degree of mastery was once a beginner, and most people don't allow themselves to be a beginner. So allow yourself to make mistakes, allow yourself to be uncomfortable, allow yourself to be not quite sure if you're doing it right, and then just keep doing it and keep exploring it. Most importantly, try to find your enjoyment in the process, because the finding of the enjoyment in the process is what's going to keep you going. So this gets back to something that comes up. I think this just came up in my Evolved Masculine Brotherhood group last week, where somebody was asking about like, what's the best practice that they should be doing? The answer is the one that you will do.
Exactly.
That's it. So where can you find your enjoyment is something that you can. So I've been recently, quick aside though we're closing, I've been really getting into Wim Hof's breath work and ice bath thing of late.
You would?
Yeah.
You're gonna sit in an ice bath. Okay.
Yesterday I did my 7th ice bath. The first time I did it on my own without my friend / coach there with me. I did completely on my own. It was at night. It was coldest night it's been so far this year, and it was windy and anyway, I was shivering before I got into the fucking thing, and I crossed 10 minutes by myself, which is a long friggin' time to be in 40-degree water, might I say. And I was just remarking to myself of like how insane I am that I've had an easier time creating this practice of getting into a 40-degree ice bath and sitting there for 10 minutes than I do with sustaining a yoga practice. Or sitting and doing 20 minutes of silent meditation.
Yeah.
So whatever you'll do, whatever you'll find your place of enjoyment in, and focus on like exploring that enjoyment and not just the chore of, this is my practice that I have to do.
This is pointing to, this is gonna be a little woo-woo, but for my people, right, to wrap this for the woo-woo spiritual group that follow me, what Dustin is speaking to here is that you're an infinite being, and the joy is when you can fully fucking claim your character. Claim your character, claim your assignment, be like, yeah, I'm Destin and I like fucking ice baths and I'm not going to sit for 20 minutes, right? And just claim it. Like there's nothing wrong, different, weird about it, right? Like that's the yum and the joy in all things. That's what allows for the freedom. You're an infinite being, and claim what the fuck feels pleasurable to you. Why not? So Destin, I know you and I both always have a million things going on, ways that people can dive deeper into this. So if you want it, it's available, right?
Well, first of all, there's always a great place to start is the book, The Evolved Masculine, Be the Man the World Needs and the One She Craves. You'll learn a lot. It's much more tangible, as well as like questions at the end of every chapter to help you deepen your understanding. They're easy to read chapters. There's 54 chapters, so they're short, and you can pick it up on Amazon. And then I've also set up a little free gift for you for being on this. And I picked something that I felt would be relevant to this conversation. It's an enticingdesire.com. Enticing Desire. It is definitely aimed at male-identified individuals who have some attraction to women.
Well, most of my community likes all genders, so can they just
great. And you know what?
Great.
To be honest, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. Thank you for saying that.
Are there little things? Yeah. But for the most part, most of it overlaps. So check that out. For free 20-minute little training on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts and things that come up for you within that. Any other things I love this conversation and haven't been having this part of the conversation enough lately. So I'd actually really appreciate your comments, your questions.
I feel the same way. This was fun for us. This was a fun conversation, and I think the community was ready for it, and the world is fucking ready for it to start feeling
Let's do it.
into this place. So thank you so much. I adore you. You're the best, and yeah, keep doing you. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.